Hi, Zizaran here with another build guide collab for the upcoming 3.22 league, and this is with Gazi, and it is a minion summoner. So for those that really want to start the league with minions, Gazi has the build for you. And first off, Gazi, tell us some pros and cons of this build.
Thanks for having me, sis. Appreciate that. Hope you guys will enjoy this Zoomancer Necromancer build guide. I'm going to start with the pros. And since this build can be used as early as level 8 with a lot of the minions, it's very easy to gear it and excel as a league starter build. And there are some really early and cheap available leveling uniques options that carry the build well into the endgame content. Outside of that, the build has a very unique playstyle. Unlike most summoner builds, this has a large set of permanent minions in specifically the low budget version, whereas the higher ones have temporarily summoned minions through the skeletons. But in a low budget version, they are permanent, so you actually have a walking army at your disposal as you're moving through the content. When it comes to the cons, however, there is this little caveat here. When you bring 70 plus minions to the screen, this whole thing with visual clarity, that's not something you can expect. That's just throw it out the window. It's gone. Your screen's going to be covered with minions. It's beautiful and not very effective in some cases, so do keep that in mind. The other con is that the build has what I would refer to as damage halts. In the super low budget progression or league start scenario around the yellow tier map stage of the game, where heavy encounters with a lot of AoE damage is going to clear off your skeleton army. Another one is obviously that the minions are doing the heavy lifting. In higher budget, this build is extremely tanky. In lower budget, however, not so much, as we don't have mechanics such as leeching or extensive amounts of sustainability of our EHP. We don't want to be running headfirst into packs of enemies too much, so be careful with the way you play. Keep some distance to the packs of enemies as you move forward in the early stage of your progression.
And now, Gazi, talk a little bit about how does the build play and feel for bosses and maps?
Most importantly, the build is utilizing permanent minions. This means that there's going to be a very low amount of actual actions that you need to do as a player moving forward as you're playing the build. The skills we're using is going to be Convocation to bring your minions teleporting back to you. Minions such as golems, zombies, as well as specters that will all work in favor for you together with an animate guardian, and they will all teleport to you with a Convocation. Outside of this, we're simply using a curse, which in this case is going to be the Frostbite. And then we have your usual mobility skills, in this case dash, and the utility options for this build is going to be casting Desecrate to spawn corpses on the ground that we're later will be consuming with our offering being Bone Offering, which provides our army and ourselves through our Ascendancy node some extra block chance. When it comes to generic clearing using these amount of minions, the play is to use our melee minions, most importantly the carrion golems as well as race zombies, to have the support of a melee splash. When you encounter harder bosses or endgame bosses, once you're done with the map progression and start fighting pinnacle bosses, you're going to switch out that melee splash for a multi-strike support instead. So there is a little bit of gem switching, and this is something that is very common when it comes to most minion builds.
So for those that are familiar with Path of Building, that is what we're using here. If you aren't, we do have a video that quickly explains how Path of Building works. And Gazi has done a great job here with doing a step-by-step tree. So that means that it's very easy for a new player to follow. And you can see exactly where to put skill points as you're leveling through. And you can see that there's not a lot of respecs needed here. So really, really good as a starter. And then there is a low budget and a medium budget build. Now, obviously, it's a little bit higher budget than what you might want in solo self-on, but a great trade league. And you'll see that the low budget end-up stuff is generally pretty cheap. If we go to the skills here, you can see that everything is grouped together with different skill sets, so you won't end up with any superfluous skill gems, and it's very, very easy to follow. So the Spectres we're using for this guide is the Crush Claws, and if you go to Gazi's global channel on Software Trade, then you can go global 6666, of course it is, and they'll help you get access very, very fast to any Spectres. So that's really, really great for getting anything you need. And then, yeah, over to items. We do have a low and a medium budget. The medium budget is like things that you can strive for and save up for, some that are more expensive than others. And obviously, every step of the way, the further you can go will like keep buffing the build. And things like Unending Hunger is a big personal favorite of mine for Spectre builds. Just feels amazing to watch them just get Soul Eater and go ham. Another thing that's really good for this guide is Gezi has a large written guide for PoE Vault that you can check out. We'll link to that in the description down below. And he also includes things like extensive PoBs for like the endgame version of the build with like a crazy budget for those that really want to go all out on this build. And Ghazi lives and breathes minions. So if you run into any problems playing minions, you can always drop by his stream for both crafting help and for just like help with the build. Great source of minion advice. Either way, I hope this build gives you a great league start, and I hope you guys enjoy the collab with Ghazi. Make sure you check him out. Does loads of good YouTube content, and he streams all the time on Twitch. Can help you guys with both minions, crafting, everything. So make sure you check him out, give him a follow, go subscribe, and support him. And if you guys like the collabs, support the channel, sub, and we'll see you guys later. But more importantly, try to die less than I do.